Let's talk Senior Bowl, where the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to be ultra focused on offensive linemen and a certain center from the University of Oregon. Also, they're looking at some cornerbacks to couple somebody with Joey Porter Jr. moving into the 2024 season. Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. There's so much to talk about with the Steelers. We're going to start with the Senior Bowl, but also there's some news surrounding Acrisure Stadium and possible renovations to bring the stadium into the modern era and allow the Steelers to utilize that stadium for a possible another 20 years. Art Rooney, the president of the Steelers, talking about possible renovations there at the stadium. We're going to talk about that. Also, what about Ryan Clark talking about, hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers really didn't prepare well for life after Ben Roethlisberger. And I want to talk about some of the takes that are going on with the hire of Arthur Smith. Some former Steelers calling it a horrible hire. Also, some media outlets maybe taking it a little bit too far. I gave you my take and said that I wasn't thrilled with the hire. It didn't shock me when the Steelers hired Arthur Smith, but I'm not saying it's a horrible hire. I'm not saying that. Arthur Smith has had success as an offensive coordinator. So we're going to dive into some of those comments that are being made, some of those takes that are out there on the internet, and talk about that and talk about the hire of Arthur Smith just a little bit. But let's dive into that Senior Bowl, where the Steelers are looking at a center in particular, Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, possibly the best center prospect inside of the Senior Bowl right now. And that could spell the end of Mason Cole. So Mason Cole, a guy that had a horrible 2023 campaign, a guy that really let the Steelers down in a lot of ways, and continual bad snaps, continual missed blocking assignments, just a really poor performance from Mason Cole, a guy that a lot of people thought was a real dog, a guy that they really had high hopes for Mason Cole. But I think the Steelers realized their deficiencies up front because according to media outlets, guys that are on boots on the ground down there at the Senior Bowl, they're talking about how the Steelers are really ultra focused on that defensive front and that offensive front. They really are looking at those linemen guys and really focusing on that, which is no surprise because the Steelers really usually do that each year. Mike Tomlin usually is heavily involved in the one-on-one matchups against defensive linemen and offensive linemen, and he really analyzes that, and that seems to be a big focus for the Steelers. And when you look at the both fronts, really, the defensive line and the offensive line in 2023, you look at a subpar performance. They had some moments, they had some players that played well, but the Pittsburgh Steelers ultimately as a whole did not play well across the trenches, man. They just did not. It wasn't their strong suit this season. You had the injury to Cam Hayward on defense. You had a nice rookie in Keanu Benton step up. So the Pittsburgh Steelers need to bolster that line, that front, also that defensive front, but the offensive line has to be of utmost importance because I think you got a few key pieces: Isaac Sumalu, Broderick Jones, James Daniels. I think if you can couple a couple more guys, a quality center and another tackle, I think you could have an elite group in the city of Pittsburgh, and that's something that they really missed last season, especially when you hire a guy like Arthur Smith who likes to run the football. You got to have a good front, a guy that wants to run play action pass. You have to have a good front. It's hard to hide line deficiencies when you're trying to run the style of offense that Arthur Smith likes to run and that he has been successful with when he was the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. Also, guys, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers looking at some cornerbacks to couple with Joey Porter Jr. Down at the Senior Bowl, what was one of them? Quinion Mitchell, guy out of Toledo. Steelers love Toledo guys. Deontay Johnson, there's been others out of Toledo that the Steelers have been interested in, drafted, etc. But the Steelers are looking to find another cornerback, possibly in the second, third round area is what I'm seeing. With the caliber of players that they're looking at. And I think the Steelers might reach for that center in the first round. We don't know yet. But the Steelers have some needs, and cornerback being one of them. And and center position being one of them. I think they need to add to the wide receiver room, but maybe they do that through free agency if you get a guy like Tyler Boyd or something. There's options out there for the Steelers, guys. And when we're talking about this Senior Bowl, nothing is definitive there. We all know that. But when you see the level of interest that the Steelers have in certain positions, it kind of guides you down a road of where they're looking in the draft this year and what they're going to try to do, and possibly the areas of focus, because I feel like every year the Steelers do a good job of mixing it up amongst the positions. But I think this year there's a couple areas, offensive line being one of them, that you might have to get a couple guys at a tackle, a center. You have to really bolster that this season, and you only have so many high draft picks, so you really need to be in tune to those guys that are going to go into the mid to late rounds that could potentially be major contributors as a rookie. So you really have to be ultra focused if you're the Steelers scouting department, player personnel people. You really have to focus this year because you need to find some gems in the late rounds, especially at some really important positions. Centers usually don't go in the first round unless they're amazing. So maybe the Steelers can take a different need in the first round and rely on that center to be there, that Oregon center that's probably the best prospect. Maybe he's there when they pick in the second round. Maybe he falls out of that first round and the Steelers trade up in the second round to ensure that they get the center that they want for the future. A guy that could be a really big foundational piece to that offensive line. And I always say foundational pieces because you need those guys. You need a quality corner. You need a center. You need a quarterback. There are certain foundational pieces that you have to have, and the rest are kind of interchangeable. So you really have to have a core group of these guys to really get your roster bolstered up enough that it's competitive for the coming season in the coming years. Those guys are the guys that stay their whole career there. Centers, quarterbacks, things of that nature. The guys that never leave, guys that only are going to know one team. But when you're talking about this cornerback position, they could free up some money by getting rid of Patrick Peterson. If the Steelers go out and draft another corner or two, another defensive back or two, does that mean Patrick Peterson's out of there? They'll save a lot on the cap, by getting rid of him, an aging guy who had his moments last year. He really stepped up as a leader, playing safety when it was needed. But if you're the Steelers, you could save some cap space and possibly get really a hell of a lot younger at that position and couple another young guy with Joey Porter Jr., who had an amazing rookie year. A guy that really shined. So if you get another cornerback that, you can have two bookends that are amazing on the outsides, it allows the Steelers to do more exotic things in the middle of the field. It allows the safeties to drop down in the box, roam around more, be more of a ball hawk type player. And that is exactly what Minkah Fitzpatrick does the best. And if you're the Steelers, to have two lockdown guys on the outside, that would mean big things for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense in 2024, and I think you would be real shocked at how well they would improve really, really quickly, especially when you have guys like TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick already on board, to where they would be a lethal force on the defensive side of the football if they can get a couple lockdown guys on the edges, because that really takes big pieces, big chunks of the football field away, and you're only using two personnel to do that. So that's a big, important task for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward in my eyes. Let's also talk about the Steelers' Arthur Smith hire. That's becoming a touchy subject. I told you guys I wasn't thrilled with the hire. But do I think it's an absolute horrible hire? No, I think you could have done a lot worse. But there's guys out there saying, former Steelers and people that run different web pages and talk about the NFL all the time, they're saying this is a horrible hire and that it's worse than Matt Canada's hire, which I think is a little bit too far. I think we're going a little bit off the rails here. You got a guy, a former Steelers offensive lineman in Willie Colon, a guy that spent a chunk of his career here in the city of Pittsburgh, a guy that was a major contributor, a starter. Talk about how he thought it was a bad hire, a horrible hire. I'm not sure if I would go that far. There's another website out there that said that this was the worst hire. If you were trying to be worse than hiring Matt Canada, you did it if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think it's a little bit off base, man. Again, am I thrilled with the hire of Arthur Smith? I'm not thrilled. I think it wasn't that splash that I was hoping for, that home run that I was hoping for. I'm picking a more modern type offensive guy. But I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong. And Arthur Smith could really flourish. And I don't think he's going to do a bad job. I don't think that he's going to struggle immensely. I think that he has potential to do really good things, especially with guys like Najee, guys like Jalen in the backfield. And if they can bolster up that offensive line, I think it could spell big things if you get the right quarterback in place. But again, guys, it's all going to come down to those foundational pieces. And are they going to be in place? And I think that's why they signed Arthur Smith to a 3-year deal, because they want to give him time to get personnel inside of the building to be able to achieve the type of offense that he wants and that he needs to be able to be successful for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he might not have that this year, depending on the quarterback position, depending on the receivers, depending on the offensive line. There is a lot of variables. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been ultra focused on Najee Harris being successful, and bringing in Arthur Smith is the reason, or is another reason that you can see that the Steelers are super invested in Najee Harris and really think that he can do good things. And that is because bringing in a guy like Arthur Smith, they pound the football, and play action pass is pivotal. And you're going to see a lot of Najee Harris and a lot of Jalen Warren next year. So that just seems to be the path of Steelers want to remain on, a smash mouth football team. I just think, though, some of these takes, guys, are just getting a little bit out of control, though. I don't think that this is the worst hire ever. And it's really hard to be worse than Matt Canada. Matt Canada was bad. He was in over his head. He shouldn't have never been in a position that he was in as quickly as he was promoted to that position by Mike Tomlin as the offensive coordinator. He should have remained being like quarterback's coach, consultant type guy until he got his legs underneath him. And I think this really hurt Matt Canada's career. And I look for him to go back down into the college ranks. And he may never get an opportunity again inside of the NFL ranks. We'll have to see how he performs when he goes back down to the college level. So I really just think it was a premature hire on Mike Tomlin's part, trying to stick with guys from within the organization that they already had in place. And I don't think that it was a good one by Mike Tomlin, and they paid, and it set the team back many seasons. I don't think Arthur Smith is that type of hire. I think Arthur Smith is going to be able to have some results quickly. I think he is going to keep the Steelers competitive. Is he going to be that home run hitter, that high-flying, crazy offense? Probably not. But he did have the second-ranked offense at one point in the NFL when he was with the Tennessee Titans. So there is potential there. There are things there that the Steelers have potential to do. So this isn't the worst hire. Willie Colon, off base. Some of these other websites, totally off base with their comments. Totally ridiculous when they say Arthur Smith is worse than Matt Canada. Let's talk about another thing that I saw, and it happened a few days ago, and I've been meaning to talk about it. Former Pittsburgh Steeler Ryan Clark talked about how he thought that the Pittsburgh Steelers really didn't plan very well for life after Big Ben Roethlisberger. And that's a big indictment on his friend, his head coach, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin and that front office staff, Kevin Colbert in particular, they really didn't put in a succession plan, and they really failed in that area. And Mike Tomlin and that front office really needed to plan when they knew Ben Roethlisberger was really starting to age, especially when he had that elbow injury. That should have become priority number one, getting a quarterback in there that was a franchise-type guy to replace Ben Roethlisberger. As soon as that injury happened, that should have been their focus immediately. And instead, they went with guys like Mason and Duck Hodges, and they tinkered around and kind of just him-hauled around waiting for Ben to come back, knowing that he was an older guy. And yeah, I kind of agree with Ryan Ryan Clark here. And the Steelers really didn't plan well. They really failed in that category for life after Big Ben Roethlisberger. And I just wanted to bring that comment up and how true it is that Ryan Clark was brave enough to say that because he's friends with all these people. And I think Ryan Clark does spit the truth about the Steelers franchise, whether it's good or bad. And I really admire him for doing that. Sometimes I think he's a little cray with it, but it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. At least he tells the truth, and that's hard pressed to get that in the media world today. In our last topic, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers possibly looking to renovate Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field. It'll always be Heinz Field to me, but Acrisure Stadium has needed some upgrades, and they've done some over the years, and they've really made the venue a great venue to play football in. But Art Rooney said that the Pittsburgh Steelers have hired some outside agencies to come in and do an assessment of the stadium to draw up some plans and draw up some ideas to be able to upgrade this stadium into the future and allow the Pittsburgh Steelers to be able to play football at Acrisure Stadium for maybe 20 years more. And what do you guys think about that? Do you like that idea? Should the Steelers look to build elsewhere? It's going to be difficult to build on site again while the Steelers play in their current home because they don't have a venue they can go to while a stadium is being constructed if they tear down Heinz Field. So the Steelers need to probably do some upgrades and really give themselves a lot more time to figure out a new stadium plan. So do you guys like Acrisure Stadium, Heinz Field? Do you guys really enjoy that venue? Do you think the Steelers should look to upgrade it? Do you think the Steelers should just not mess with it and leave it how it is and kind of keep that history there? Or should the Steelers go into a more modern era and try to build a new stadium? Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that. I found that to be a rather interesting thing that was brought up by Art Rooney, and you never know. New stadiums are exciting, and it could be a big a talking point. No, I don't look for the Steelers to ever do a dome or anything like that, but hey, new stadium's a new stadium, and if that ends up being the plan, that's cool, man. That would be something really special for the citizens and fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the city of Pittsburgh. So that's about all I want to talk about today, guys. I appreciate you guys coming through again and watching the video. I think we're going to try to do that live show tonight. We didn't do it last night. I was loading a trailer, doing things like that. Sean's going to join me. I didn't get to talk to him, but he's going to join me soon. I know some of you have missed Sean being on the channel here, but the off season is what it is. We get doing other things, and there's not a lot of things going on with the Steelers every day, so it's hard to just get in that groove of doing the live shows every day. So we're gonna try to get back in the saddle with that. Hopefully tonight, even if Sean doesn't join me, I think I'm gonna get on and just have a chat with you guys for 45 minutes or so, and let you guys sound off and voice your concerns with how so far. How this Steelers offseason has gone and what should we expect moving forward into the draft, the Senior Bowl, all those things, all these offseason moves that could be exciting. What about the roster and how it's constructed currently? Where could they make some cap space? Things of that nature. We can talk about it all. Also, the hire of Arthur Smith, and really let you guys sound off and give your real honest opinions here on the channel. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. And until next time, this is Mike Drop Sports, and I'm Jason. Peace.